He financed her dream life with €800 a week, but on her birthday she laughed and said, "You're only here for the free food, right? You didn't even stay for the cake." 36 hours later, 14 voicemails, 3 text messages, and a nervous knock on my door. I didn't expect a thank you, I didn't expect flowers, but I definitely didn't expect that. "You're only here for the free food, right?" Clara said loud enough for the entire terrace to hear, her champagne flute catching the light as if she were receiving an award for the world's cheapest person. Laughter erupted around her. Not the polite kind, the cruel kind, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I stood there holding the €200 gift I'd wrapped an hour earlier, wondering if anyone else at that table realized I was the one who'd paid for all of this. My cousin Clara, my perfect, spoiled, wannabe influencer, looked me dead in the eye with that mocking smile I knew too well. And in that moment she wasn't just laughing at me, she was erasing me. I waited for someone, anyone, to intervene. Maybe her boyfriend, maybe our Aunt Marta. But no one did. No one ever does. Instead, Clara kept smiling like it was all a joke, like she hadn't spent 11 months sending me requests for €800 a week because she couldn't manage her finances after quitting her job to become a wellness content creator. I covered her rent, her bills, groceries when she forgot her PIN, emergency vet bills for the dog she couldn't afford, spa days, the facial she got 2 days before this very party. I financed this entire party. Her Great Gatsby theme, the balloon arch, the DJ on the terrace, the floral installation with her name in gold letters. Even the cupcakes she wouldn't let anyone touch until she'd uploaded a boomerang. Abysmal. And now I was the punchline. Just the cheap cousin in discount pants, a modest gift card, and a recycled envelope. Nothing Instagram-worthy, nothing rich or relevant, just a walking, talking ATM in the background. I froze, a cupcake in my hand, her laughter still ringing in my ears. Then I placed it on the table calmly, precisely, as if I were setting down the final payment on a transaction I never agreed to. I didn't make a scene, I didn't throw a drink, I didn't say goodbye. I just left. No one stopped me. Not even Clara, who once left me 6 voicemails in a row, crying because she couldn't breathe from the anxiety attack caused by a €193.47 phone bill. I paid it that same night. That was a month ago. Now she was laughing in my face like I was some pathetic fool who didn't realize he'd been used. I didn't stay for the cake and I didn't answer the phone the next day or the day after. But by 36 hours I had 14 voicemails, 3 text messages, and then just before midnight a knock on my apartment door. Soft, hesitant, like the person on the other side wasn't sure I'd even open it. They were right to be afraid because this time I had nothing left to give, and more than ever to say. It all started with a single temporary payment. 11 months later, I was fully financing her lifestyle as if I owed her something. She never said thank you, but she always remembered to send the request via Bysum. It all started with a call. "Hey, I know this is awkward, but I really need help with rent this month," Clara had said, her voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. "Just until I get more collaborations. I swear I'll pay you back next week." That was 47 weeks ago. Spoiler. She never paid me back. Not once. Not even €5 for a coffee. But in that moment I said yes. Why? Was I naive? Maybe. Because we're family, I told myself. But really it was guilt. Guilt is dangerous, especially when you've spent your whole life hearing that you're the lucky one who got ahead, that you have a real job, and that you should help out more. First it was just the rent. Then came the groceries. Then an emergency dental job. Then her dog needed surgery. Then she lost her phone and couldn't create content, which meant she'd lose followers, which meant she'd have to start all over again. She cried. I paid. Every week without fail €800. Sometimes more. I wasn't living a lavish life. I drove a beat-up old seedy Ibiza. I ate pasta 4 times a week. I avoided going out with friends so I wouldn't have to explain why I couldn't split the bill. Meanwhile, Clara was posting pictures on the beach from weekend retreats, face masks that cost more than my electricity bill, and videos in yoga studios with €30 drop-in classes. I was paying for her silence, her comfort, her carefully constructed image. And worse, I was acting like it was normal, like I was just doing my part. "You're always so generous," she'd say when I sent her the money. Not thank you. Not I'll pay you back. Just that, as if she were complimenting me for being her personal piggy bank. But the real breaking point came 6 weeks before the party. She called me crying, inconsolably sobbing. Said she was being evicted because her landlord was unfair and was actually expecting her to pay rent like he was some kind of monster. It's just temporary, I swear, please, I'm drowning. So I transferred her 2,400 euros in one go. The next day she posted a photo from a new spa. The caption read, "When you realize the universe provides." I stared at the screen for a full minute, rereading it over and over. Now I was the universe. That night I started logging every transaction. Rent, food, beauty treatments, urgent Cabify rides, payments to her hairdresser, 89 euros to a bakery for gluten-free cupcakes for her dog's birthday. Yes, a dog. By the end of the month, the total was over 31,000 euros. I could have bought a new car, paid off my student loans, traveled somewhere. But instead, I'd fully financed an influencer's lifestyle. And still she called me cheap. That word stung more than I expected because she'd said it before. Started as a joke. Once when I brought beer instead of wine to a family barbecue, she rolled her eyes and said, "Wow, so thrifty. And boring. Very you." Another time when I declined her idea for a joint birthday trip to Ibiza, she muttered, "Don't be so tight-fisted." I ignored it. I always ignored it because she was going through a lot, because she didn't mean it, because I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who always picked up the pieces. But something shifted after that spa post. Something snapped. The next time she called to say her Wi-Fi had been cut off, I paused. I let the silence stretch longer than usual. "Are you there?" she asked, her voice already defensive. "I am," I said slowly. "But I don't know why." She went quiet. "Because you always help," she finally said. "You said you'd always be there for me." And there it was. It wasn't gratitude, it wasn't humility, it was entitlement. She didn't see my help as an act of kindness, she saw it as a duty, as if I owed her this lifestyle. And then I understood. This wasn't support anymore. This was servitude. That week I didn't send the 800 euros. The next day I woke up to 3 missed calls. Then a text. "Hey, something wrong with the transfer? My landlord is texting me again." I didn't reply. The following week she sent me another buy some request. No message, just the number, 800 euros. I declined it. 2 hours later, she posted a story saying, "Funny how some people disappear right when you really need them. The real ones stay." I laughed out loud. And then came the birthday invitation. The Gatsby-themed terrace event I didn't want to go to, but felt obligated to because she called and said, "I really need this to go well. I want you to be there." I mean it. So I went. With a gift. In clean clothes I'd ironed myself. With every shred of dignity I had left. And she mocked me. In front of everyone. For being there only for the free food. And they laughed. No one defended me. No one asked, "Hey, isn't that the guy who practically paid for all of this?" And now she was calling, texting, begging because the gravy train had stopped and she had nowhere else to turn. But I wasn't answering. Because this wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about how much of myself I'd sold in exchange for acceptance, and how utterly done I was with that deal. When she showed up at my door crying, I thought that maybe, just maybe, she finally got it. But no. She doubled down. And I was the one who burned the bridge. The knocks came just before midnight. I ignored the first one. Then came the second, softer this time. Like whoever was on the other side had lost the courage to continue. I knew it was her. I waited. "Please," she whispered then. "I just need to talk." Clara. The same voice that once called me at 3 a.m. because her Cabify got lost and she didn't want to pay the night surcharge. The same voice that begged me for rent money. The same voice that called me cheap in front of 30 people while holding a champagne flute I'd paid for. I opened the door and there she was. Mascara smeared. A hoodie over her party dress. Heels in one hand like a dethroned prom queen. Eyes glassy, makeup smudged, but still Clara. The girl who knew how to look just broken enough to be forgiven. "I didn't mean it," she whispered. "Don't," I said, stepping aside. "Come in." She entered slowly, like a child expecting to be scolded. She was drunk. It started. It was a joke. I didn't think. "You left. And then you didn't answer. I thought you were mad. But come on, you know I didn't mean it like that." "I didn't." "You said it. Exactly like that." She opened her mouth again. But I wasn't waiting for her to find the right lie. You called me cheap, I said. In front of people. People I don't even know. People who ate my money with golden chopsticks and laughed while they did it. I didn't ask you to pay for everything, she blurted out, her voice cracking. I paid. You laughed. You actually laughed. Didn't you? I raised an eyebrow. Let me refresh your memory. I pulled out my phone, opened Bysum, and showed her. Page after page. 800 euros. 400 euros. 1,200 euros. Even 36 euros for sushi because her card was declining. You didn't ask. You begged. You cried. You manipulated me with guilt. And when I stopped paying, you humiliated me. She crossed her arms, suddenly defensive. Why are you being so dramatic? You earn more than enough. What's a few thousand? That was it. I felt something snap in my chest. I had to take a deep breath before answering. You know what? I said quietly. I do earn enough. And for 11 months I lived like a ghost so you could pretend to be alive. I ate ramen so you could post pictures of lobster rolls. I skipped therapy because I couldn't afford it after paying your rent. I suffocated so you could breathe in your stupid eucalyptus-smelling yoga studio. Clara's eyes welled up again. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't reply. You didn't care. Silence. And then her go-to move. I'm your family, she said softly. You said you'd always help me. And there it was again, the manipulation. I said I'd help you, I nodded. Not disappear for you. She looked at the floor. So what, you're just going to cut me off forever? After all, everything. After all, I repeated. What do you call everything? The part where you wrung me dry and laughed in my face? Or when you pretended I didn't exist until it was time to pay a bill? Her face hardened. You're being ridiculous. Perfect, I said, taking a step toward her. Maybe I'm finally matching your energy. That stung. She took a step back. You think you're better than me now? I don't, I replied coldly. I just see who you really are now. She opened her mouth but nothing came out. So I continued. You stood in front of a crowd and tried to diminish me. You humiliated the one person who's been there for you since day one. And now you're coming here with tears and guilt, expecting me to cave again. She swallowed. I just need a little help. Just this month. The rent is overdue and I didn't say a word. Just sharp, clean lines. She stared at me, stunned like no one had ever said no before. I walked to the door and opened it. You're not my responsibility anymore, Clara. No more. Her lip trembled. But I don't have anyone else. You had me, I said. And you laughed me right out of your life. She stood there for a beat, hurt, angry, maybe both. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, muttering something under her breath. I closed the door behind her, locked it, then turned off my phone. Really? No more transfers. No more requests. No more pretending being used is the same as being loved. I thought cutting her off would make me feel guilty. But what I felt was free. The only thing more surprising than her silence was how quickly she came crawling back. The silence was strange at first. No Bysum notifications, no dramatic 2 a.m. voicemails, no texts with crying emojis, and only one more time as an excuse. For the first time in almost a year, my phone was quiet. And honestly, I thought I'd feel guilty. I thought I'd lie awake at night wondering if she was okay, if she paid the rent, if her dog had eaten, if she would post some cryptic story that would make me question everything. But I didn't feel guilty. I felt relief. Sharp, electric, overwhelming relief, like someone had lifted a weight off my chest I hadn't even realized I was carrying. I cleaned my apartment, paid my own bills, and had money left over. I went grocery shopping just for myself and didn't have to subtract Clara's weekly 800 euros. I even booked a therapy session I'd been putting off for 6 months. And still nothing. Not from her, not from her mom, not from anyone in that toxic, eternally smiling, perpetually demanding circle she'd built around herself like a moat. Until day 8. That's when it started. Subtle at first. A reposted quote on Instagram. Cutting ties doesn't make you strong, it makes you cruel. Then a story of her crying, framed just right to show the smeared mascara and a plush blanket. The caption. Some people only want you around when you're useful. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought I'd lose them. And then came the text. Clara. I'm not going to beg. But I'm hurting and I thought we were better than this. I didn't reply. The next day another. Clara, let me explain please. I need this to make sense. I can come over. Just talk. I didn't reply to that either. And of course the escalation. That Saturday, I ran into her mother, my Aunt Marta, in line at the supermarket. Oh, you're still alive, she said with a tight smile loud enough for people to hear. Clara says you've been distant. I didn't reply. Just nodded politely, paid for my groceries and left. By Sunday, Clara's tone had changed completely. Clara, look, I know I messed up. But I didn't mean to hurt you.
Just i paniked.
Everyone was looking and I wanted to be funny. It was a joke. I care about you. I always have. Please don't hate me. I stared at the screen for a full minute, and then I did something I hadn't done since this whole thing began. I put my phone down and went outside. I went for a walk. I bought myself a coffee. I sat in the park with a book, and I didn't feel the crushing weight of someone else's panic on my shoulders. I wasn't a rescuer anymore. No more. But Clara didn't stop. She texted again and again. Then she called. Left a voicemail that started calmly and ended in sobs. It wasn't about the rent anymore or the party. It was about control. She could feel it slipping away and she was panicking. The following night, she played her final card. She showed up at my door again. But this time she wasn't alone. Behind her stood her boyfriend, Diego, or whatever his Tinder name was. The same one who laughed at her joke. The same one who watched me walk away from that terrace like I was invisible. Now he was at my door, hands in his pockets, gaze downcast. We just want to talk, Clara said softly. I didn't open the door all the way. You did, I said. On your terrace in front of 30 people. I didn't mean it, she pleaded. You said, I replied. And I meant it. I'm done. Diego looked up finally. Look man, she's really bad. She hasn't slept. She's not okay. I tilted my head. She cried like this when she called me cheap in front of you. Silence. You have each other, I continued. Figure it out. Oh, come on, he scoffed. But I'm not playing villain anymore in a story where I was the only one who showed up, gave everything, and got nothing but burnt so she could feel warm. And then I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I just closed it, because that's what boundaries sound like. That same night, I took the gift I'd brought to her party, the one I left on the table, the one she never even opened, and I threw it in the trash. It felt like throwing away the receipt for a scam I never agreed to participate in. And you know what? I didn't feel guilty. I felt clean. Free. Final update. I posted the story online. Not for pity. Just to be able to breathe. But I wasn't prepared for the world's response. 1 week after I closed the door on Clara for good, I did something I never thought I'd do. I posted the whole story on Forecocious. Not with my name, obviously, just anonymously from a throwaway account. The title: Paid my cousin €800 per week for 11 months. She called me cheap at her birthday party. Left without a word. No tags. No edits. Just the truth. The post exploded within hours. Tens of thousands of upvotes, thousands of comments, people dissecting every sentence like I was a character in some twisted drama. I hadn't expected it. I didn't even know why I'd done it. Maybe I just needed to say it out loud to see if I was crazy, or if she was. And Forecocious had no mercy. Some of the top comments were brutal. She's not your cousin. She's been emotionally leeching off you for months. You did the right thing cutting her off. I would have thrown the cupcake in her face. The patience you have. God tier. Euro 800/week? I'd cut my own brother in half for half that humiliation. But then came the questions. The real ones. The ones that made me stop scrolling and start thinking. Why did you help her for so long? What were you getting out of it? Were you in love with her or something? This sounds like more than cousinly generosity. Serious question. Are you sure you weren't trying to buy her affection? And the worst one. What made you think you deserved to be treated like that in the first place? That one hit different. Because they were right. I wasn't just being generous. I was trying to earn something I never had as a kid, belonging. Clara had always been the star, the golden child. Even when we were little, I was the boring cousin. The logical one, the quiet one, the one who always had extra pencils. Helping her made me feel needed. And when you grow up invisible, being needed can get confused with being loved. But it wasn't. It was dependence, exploitation wrapped in glitter. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So I posted a second update. Update. I've read your comments. Good, bad, and completely insane. And here's the truth. I helped her because I wanted to believe someone could need me that much and still love me. But love doesn't demand silence. Love doesn't humiliate you in public. Love doesn't see your generosity as a debt to be collected. So no, I wasn't in love with her. I just wanted to matter. And now I matter to me. For the first time. That comment got 40,000 upvotes. In a single day, people started quoting it, messaging me, sharing their own stories. This made me cry in the break room. I just canceled a recurring BISUM transfer to my sister. Thank you, man. You helped me leave my mom's house. And of course, not everyone was kind. Still bitter. This screams main character energy from someone who's never heard no. Maybe. But if being the main character of my own life makes me seem bitter, so be it. I was an extra in other people's dramas for too long. I don't send money out of guilt anymore. I don't answer 3 a.m. sob stories. I don't live with my phone buzzing like a slot machine every time someone needs a small favor. I go for walks. I cook for one. I sleep. The other day, Clara texted again. I miss how we used to be before all this, or whatever this is. I didn't reply. Because whatever this is, it's the first time in my life I have peace. Have I forgiven her? I don't know. Some days I think I have. Other days I remember her face when she called me cheap, after I'd held her up like scaffolding for almost a year, and I realize, she didn't just take my money, she tried to take my dignity. And that's the last thing I'll ever lend anyone. So now I'm here writing this, watching strangers read my life like it's a novel. Some applaud. Some are uncomfortable. Some don't believe me. And some see themselves. And maybe that's why I posted it in the first place. Because if there's someone out there being silently used, smiling while they drown, wondering if they're crazy for finally saying no, maybe this will help them breathe. Or maybe not. I don't pretend to have all the answers.